Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us at the University of Scouting 2021 in our special needs class. This morning's class will be on special needs scouting specific to ADD and ADHD. So you will see there is some slides to the side of me here. So as I'm speaking, please refer to the slides. Hopefully you have gotten the copies of the slides that I was going to send out to everybody so that you can have this to write on or just to refer to after the class. My name's Ellen McAllister. I am the Cub Master Emeritus for Pack 147, which was started originally as a regular pack, which now incorporated special needs children. So you might say I have quite a bit of experience with special needs, ADD, ADHD being two of the major diagnoses that I've worked with. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts here. What is the difference between ADD and ADHD? Well, ADD is the first one we're going to take on, attention deficit disorder. So these are your little ones that are going to come in and they're bouncing all over the place. They've got a lot of energy and they have a very great difficulty in focusing or maintaining attention. This is the child that even if they were watching their favorite cartoon, they can do it for a very short period of time and then they have to deviate their attention and then they're going to come back. They have great difficulty even on tasks that they like to be able to focus in on this, okay? These types of behaviors will often lead to learning and behavior problems at school, at church, at the home, in scouting, and pretty much every venue that they're going to find themselves in. So that's your basic ADD, attention deficit disorder. Now we're going to add that little H in there, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so you say to me, well, Ellen, you just mentioned that they have trouble in the last one. What's the difference? Why is one hyperactive and one the other? Well, the reason that this is a separate diagnosis basically is this one has a wider range of symptoms involved, okay? These children have very poor concentration, an inability to focus on tasks or paying attention. They are predominantly inattentive, and that's to anything. Okay, but their hyperactivity involves body movements. These kids are constantly going and moving, and you get exhausted watching them. Basically, is what it comes down to. Okay. However, let's start breaking down the basic roles here. So, characteristics: hyperactivity. They both have a component, but as I said, ADHD, it's more of a physical. The ADD can actually almost do it in their mind sometimes. Impulsivity. This is the child that, and we all have our children like this. Hey, some of us are like this. You see it, you think it, you do it. Well, with the impulsivity, the think it part doesn't always happen. You see it, you do it. You think it, you do it. Okay? Inattention, we already discussed. Impaired sense of time. This is a child to whom, when you say, wait a minute, is it a minute yet? Is it a minute yet? You know, it kind of reminds me of the kid in the back of the car on a trip. Think, are we there yet? Are we there yet? That's what that is. Okay. Oftentimes, children with ADD or ADHD will have coexisting conditions. It could be part of autism. It could be part of Down syndrome. It could be part of cerebral palsy. It's never just a one-hit wonder, okay? And so basically when you're dealing with this scout, you're going to be dealing with somebody and you're like, okay, now wait a minute. Is that schizophrenia? Is it bipolar? Is it, what is it? I'm seeing lots of different little bits here and there. It's because they all kind of sometimes will run together depending upon the child and the makeup of the child. They have something called a weak executive functioning. Now, this is a little harder to explain, but I'm going to give you an example that maybe is going to help. So an executive function means I am now on a video and you are watching me, okay? Now, your eyes are interpreting it. It's going to your brain. Your ears are interpreting what I'm saying. That's going to your brain. Your higher executive functioning is giving you the ability to put everything together. Now, depending upon what area of the executive functioning is not working well, will determine how you're going to see this child. I have some people, their higher executive functioning issues are they transpose things. Okay, so yes is no, no is yes, up is down, down is up. Some of them, it's a matter of being able to put pieces together. A great thing to use with somebody with executive functioning is Legos, because they have to be able to maybe they want to put all the colors together, or maybe they want to put the same shapes together. So executive functioning is a little bit grayer of a zone. And when we talk later about the ISP, I'll be talking about how that becomes very important, because that's going to help you to help this scout. Delayed social maturity. Okay, now we've all heard the running statement that, well, girls mature faster than boys, and it's the right brain versus the left brain. With someone with ADD and ADHD, there's so much going on here that we're not even seeing. That sometimes it kind of puts social development on a back burner. It's not that they're not developing, they are, but they're dealing with so much up front that what they need is to kind of decide, what am I going to deal with? Which fire is bigger than the other, okay? And so this is someone who maybe, they're 10 years old and they're not potty trained. Well, why aren't they potty trained? Well, because they're trying to learn how to deal with society. They're learning how to read people's body language. They're learning how to, so you see how this could maybe, to them, say, you know what, I'm going to worry about that later. And that's just one example. Okay. Some of the other characteristics, a very low frustration threshold. So you're going to give your scouts a puzzle. And my best example is, that little box that you turn it this way and then you turn it this way and you try and get all the colored blocks put together. So you give that to a neurotypical scout, and they're going to get to the frustration where they're going to try it, and okay, and then they put it down. With ADD, ADHD, in their brain, it's, let's get it done. And if I can't get it done right away, throw it away. Very low frustration tolerance. When you go camping, you're going to know this next one, sleep disturbance. So this is the child that maybe only sleeps 1 or 2 hours a night, and then they'll take a midday nap. And a lot of scout people will make the mistake of thinking, well, if he's only going to sleep 2 hours at night, we're going to give him a sleeping pill. No, you're not. That's not going to help them. Or we're not going to let them have that afternoon rest. No, you're not. A tired scout is never a good scout, okay? So what you need to do, again, go back to that ISP. Do they have a sleep disturbance? Do they need a certain, sometimes there are these lava lamps that they have to have, or maybe they need the white noise machines to keep them busy. It's like they have to have part of that brain occupied so that they can relax enough to sleep. Not learning easily from rewards and punishments. Now, this is something that's in common with autism, and that is that the ability to generalize. So, I have now taken this glass, and I'm angry with my scout leader, and I'm going to pour the water out, okay? And the scout leader gets mad at me, and he says, what are you doing? Don't do that again, okay? So now I know when I'm in front of this person in this situation, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get in trouble. But later on, I'm in the dining hall, I'm with the regular scouts, and they're all making fun, and I think it would be funny, and I do it again. Well, you were just told up here, there's no generalization, okay? So whether they were rewarded or punished doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to translate it. So instead of working in a reward system or a punishment system, better you do a hands-on system. Work with them and help them to comprehend the consequence of what they did, okay? And that's not to say that I'm against punishment, because there are consequences to everything we do in life, good and bad. They have learning difficulties. Because their brains are constantly going bing, 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 ricochet, rabbit, here's the problem. You want them to slow down and learn how to tie a knot, which means I've got to turn this rope over here, I've got to bring this one over here. It's rhythmic and it is slow. But their brain is like, go, 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 go. And that creates a problem. However, let's look at the flip side of this now. I've talked about the things that might frustrate you as a scout leader. Let me tell you about the things that you're going to love about these kids. And please trust and believe you are going to have beautiful memories working with these children. They're energetic. They're very engaging. This is not the kid that necessarily is going to stand aside here. This is someone who is going to want to be involved, and they want to have their hands on it, and they want to do it, and they want to take control. They are very dramatic. Get your journals ready, because you're going to get some stories you're going to love in your old age. They're very clever. See, one of the things about these scouts, and I always tell people, don't get mad at a child because he was smarter than you. They see things differently than we do. And because they do that, what they're able to do is do workarounds that you and I wouldn't even think about. These kids are clever. Okay, so she told me that I couldn't go in that door so that I could go to that desk and get the cookies. No problem. I'm going to walk around the cabin. I'm going to open up the window. I'm going to reach in and get the cookie that way. I didn't go through the door. They're very clever. They are very bright. They're excited. And they're carefree, which sometimes comes off as, are they being lazy or lackadaisical? No, they enjoy everything, okay? And they are inquisitive. So I just mentioned that they're inquisitive. This is the child that's going to have a million questions. Why do I have to do it this way? Why do we have to do this then? Where can I go? How can I? Why? And they're going to drive you nuts. But you know what? Remember, this is going to be the future leader of the world. Answer to the level that they understand, because not answering them or avoiding their questions, all that's going to do is ramp up their anxieties, and it's not going to help. However, if they're asking you a question and the situation is not correct, you're dealing with a problem or you're dealing with something else, and they're like, but Miss Ellen, why can't I do this? But you know what? Be very clear with them and very succinct. Okay, Stephen. So I understand that you want to know why the water in the toilet rounds to the red and not to the blue. We can answer that. But you see, I'm working with Susie right now. Let me finish this. And as soon as you see me done with this, I will come over and I will answer your question. That they can handle. But, oh, Stephen, later, I can't do this. These children do not handle it very well. Okay, so I've given you the basic umbrella of the ADD, ADHD, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so now let's help you to get through this, okay? Because again, remember I told you you're gonna love these scouts. So the very first thing, and this should actually happen before the scout even joins your unit, you should do an intake. And if you go to the next class on autism, I go over that quite in depth. But basically, you want to meet with the parents, meet with the scout, okay? Find out what this child likes and doesn't like, is capable or has trouble with. And if they have an IEP, an individual education plan, or a 504 already done by the school, that's half your battle right there. Ask the parents to share it with you. From that document, you will learn how to develop an ISP. And again, if you go to my autism class this afternoon, you will be able to get the form and line out exactly what you need to find out. Okay, this has to be done. All the leadership needs to know, especially the leadership going to whatever den activity or outdoor activity, whatever you're going to do. The leaders need to know what this child is triggered by, what they need, and what the repairs are. So, with this ISP, you're going to have to incorporate into your meetings, into your activities, things that number one, the child can do, and number two, that will challenge them but not frustrate them. Now, there's a big difference between challenging someone and frustrating them. To challenge someone is to provide them with an opportunity to learn something, to stretch their area of comfort without hitting that wall that says, I can't do this, I just can't do this. Okay? And we all have that. We all have that wall that's between our opportunities and our frustrations. Most of us recognize when we get close to this wall. Children with ADD and ADHD do not necessarily recognize it. They go, and then they blow through it, and now they're frustrated. Now they're throwing things, and they're yelling, and they're shutting down, and all sorts of things, negative things are happening. So what you want to do is set up your event so that this child and your leader and your unit will succeed. So let's give you an example. So I had one child, communication was an issue for him. And we went on a camping trip. Now the child saw something about another scout wandering close to the water's edge. And he had heard that one of the rules was you don't go to the water's edge. Now he didn't really communicate too well, and he had so much things jumbled up in his mind. So what he did was he went by where the other scouts were. And he took a stick and he started drawing things in the dirt. Now, at that time, 2 of the 4 leaders was aware that the child liked to write in hieroglyphics. The other two did not. Unfortunately, these are the two that were closest to where the event went on. Luckily, Mom was on site. So the child is fast and furiously drawing these figures in the sand. And the kids are looking there like, why is Scott so wound up? What's going on? Well, luckily, Mom saw the activity, ran over, and she said, oh, he's writing in hieroglyphics that somebody's going by the water's edge. And sure enough, that was happening. So he was having an event where his anxiety was building and building, and before he hit that wall, he had decided, okay, I'm just going to start writing. Someone's going to know, okay? The mother was there. The two leaders that didn't know quickly learned about the ISP and learned so that the rest of the camping trip was much easier. So that's something that maybe should have been discussed before they left for that event. Okay, you also wanted to make sure, do you have enough trained leaders, okay? The training you're getting right now is the start of being a trained leader. This one class does not make you universally qualified, but this is a very good start. There's several other classes of the special needs that you can take, as well as network. Go to your roundtables. Go to whatever community meetings you have that have children with special needs, and start learning more about what they need, what they can do, and what you need to provide. The other thing you want to find out is how many hands on board do you have? You know, Scouting says that we have a 2-deep leadership rule. In Scouting with special needs, I always say 3. Why? Because the event one child goes down, if I have 3, I now have my 2-deep leadership. However, if I only start with 2, I got a problem, okay? And you don't want to let yourself into that. Then the other thing you want to know is, do they need special equipment for communication, for transportation, for feeding, and for medications and of the such? Okay. Then you want to ask yourself, before you go on any activities or DEN unit activities, is the activity that is planned appropriate for this child, or do you need a plan B? I had 2 children in my unit had very severe claustrophobic events. That already showed me that, you know what, going on board to spend the night at the USS Constitution was a really bad idea. So while some of the unit, the troop, went on to the USS Constitution, the others we took over to it's a Discovery Zone, I think it was called, where, you know, it was like a museum something, and they could learn about archaeology or biology or whatever it was over there. So we had a second event. Does it split up your attention? Yes, but both units of children came back with wonderful stories that they could share with each other, and pictures and experiences, so that nobody missed out, but also no one was put in a stressful situation. Okay, and then the other thing, and the most important thing, and that again comes back to the ISP, is, do all the people that are going to be involved with this young person understand triggers, meltdowns, and repairs? Because all of us have all 3, but not all of us respond the same way. So that's information you need to make sure your leadership has before you even do a DEN meeting or a troop meeting. You've got to have that information. Okay, so let's start with some tips. Number 1, if the scout has ADD and ADHD, do yourself a favor, do your parents a favor, do your leadership a favor, do your scouts a favor. Let everybody know. You're not sharing unwanted information. What you're doing is you're helping to build this unit to its greatest success. Tell them what works, tell them what won't work. Medication. Now here's a very, very big issue. Many times parents feel like, oh, I'm giving my son or my daughter this medication during the week so they can sit still for school and pay attention for school. And that's fine. Then they want to give their children a medication vacation. And I do this because it's not really a vacation. When someone comes to me and tells me that, as a nurse, what that's telling me is you really don't understand the mechanism of that medication. And you don't understand why the child is getting the medication. If you're a diabetic, and I'm going to give you insulin, okay? And even if it's a shot, that medicine, that insulin, is to help keep you going, to keep you in what we call homeostasis. Everything where and way, how it should be, okay? It's the same thing with the medications for mental health. And that is usually a title that nobody wants to hear, but it's getting better over the years. our children have mental health issues, whether it's autism, ADHD, ADD, executive function disorder, whatever the case may be. The medications are given so that the individual can be comfortable, so that they can participate, so that they can enjoy, so that they're not overwhelmed with this sense of anxiety. Now, if I'm willing to give that to someone so that they can function in their day-to-day life when they're in school or on a job, why would I want them to not enjoy their time off? And see, and that's the mistake a lot of people make. They're like, oh, the medication has a side effect. Johnny can't eat or Susie can't eat because of the medicine. Then that's when you talk to your doctor, because there are other things that can be done. You don't want to make a choice between, do I eat or am I having high anxiety? Because that's what you're doing when you don't give them the medications, okay? So that's to understand why we're giving them the medicine. It's to help them. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is you do not want to tell them that it's going to help them to behave or make them good. We don't want them to take it personal, okay? Now, another thing about medications, very, very important, Scout leaders. A child's medication should be listed on their medical forms. And also you need to understand something. It is not your responsibility, unless you choose to provide the medications. Wherever you're going, whatever event, it's up to the child or the youth or the parent to be responsible to make sure this child takes their medications. However, if you choose to assist in this, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, whatever the case may be, remember that the medications must be in the original prescribed container. It cannot be a bag full of medicines, okay? That's not acceptable, and you cannot take that with you. Okay, you want to make sure that you know your local as well as the national policy, the BSA policy on medication administration, and you can get that information online. And also check the slide that I have on this. Okay, so the next tip. Again, I told you, please don't tell the Scouts this is to make them behave or make them do better. It is to help them to relax, to focus and enjoy, okay? So you're going to find out what their medical and social needs are. You're going to find out what your counsel requires, or if need be, have the parent. Now, if a parent's not available to go on an event, if there's a guardian, they can do the guardian, or they can delegate that to someone, but then you must have in writing who they're delegating it to in terms of going on a task. So I had one of my boys going to a summer camp, and I couldn't go because I had another child I needed to go somewhere else with. There was an older Scout that knew my child very well, so I wrote in a document that Nick was allowed to accompany Thomas and that he was to be with Thomas at all times. Thomas had a fantastic time at camp. I paid for Nick to go, and it relieved the unit, who didn't know him as well as Nick did, of any worries about what was Thomas going to do, when was he going to melt down, and what needed to be done. Okay. Again, I had said earlier, make sure your Scout leaders know before going to an event, what is it that is needed. Some of the things that you're going to look at is, what are their bedtime routines? What are their morning routines? What are their eating habits? Are there specific requirements for their foods? All of that needs to be taken into consideration, okay? Now, we've talked about what the leaders need to do to prepare. Let's talk about the youth that's going to go on this event or going to come to the meeting. They need some preparation as well. So some of the things that you want to do is you want to have some quiet time with the youth and tell this young lady or young man, okay, now when we go up to Camp Henson, we are going to go to a flag folding ceremony. And this is what's going to happen. And lay the picture out so that they understand what's going to happen, what they can expect of others, and what others will expect of them. And what you're going to want to do is you make a little list. So before Thomas went to camp, I had an idea. I had the itinerary, what was going to happen in Camp Henson or Broad Creek or whichever camp that you're going to. And we wrote down, okay, on this day you're going to go to these activities, and this is what you can expect, and this is what they expect of you. On this day, and we wrote it all down so that every morning when Thomas woke up, he had this paper to refer. Oh, that's right. Today we're going to learn to tie knots, and I'm going to go up to the base camp, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to see this person. It does help them, okay? If there's longer steps, then break it down a little at a time. Okay, the other thing is, we said with ADD and ADHD, these kids are hyperactive. They want to move and groove. They do not want to stand still. This is just not who they are because they got all this stuff going on. So what you're going to want to do is offer them opportunities to use those to your advantage. Things like leading cheers. This kid's loud anyway. Why wouldn't you let him do that? Okay? Performing skits. They're always moving and grooving. How many skits do you know have the scouts staying nice and quiet? I've yet to see one. Okay? Have them assist with demonstrations. Again, we're trying to build the confidence. Think back what scouting is about. We're trying to build this person into a leader. Well, how can you be a leader if you've never been shown hands-on what to do? Okay? They can help as they get up in the ranks to turn around and help the younger ones that are coming in to do certain skills. Sometimes a youth learns from another youth better than they do from an adult, okay? All of this will help improve their focus, increase their self-confidence, and think about this. This will help the entire pack as a whole. Now, sometimes you're going to have to repeat instructions, and what you need to do is make sure that the calamity, the chaos, all the stuff that's going around is not available, because otherwise he's going to be like this, or she will be like this. What you're going to want to do is pull the child to a quieter venue. Remember your 2 deep leadership, don't get in trouble, okay? And then what you want to do is just very slowly repeat one-on-one, what is the assignment? What do they need? And maybe get a scouting buddy, someone that you've seen the scout deal with, that they have a comfort zone with, and let the buddy be there too, so the buddy hears it too, and then they can work together as a team. Okay? This will also help the scout to get organized, which is not one of their strengths. Okay? Now, one of the things I alluded to early on, I'm going to repeat it again now because it's really, really important. As you will have heard me many times say about autism, it also goes for ADHD and ADD. These diagnoses are not an excuse for bad behavior. Let me repeat this. They are not an excuse for bad behavior. We do not give them extra chances. So they have to follow the same rules as the other scouts. Otherwise, you're not going to have a very cohesive unit. Okay? However, having said that, what you want to do is be, again, a little bit proactive and think about this. Okay, what sets this child off? If you know that every time the dinner bell is going to ring at camp to let them know, hey, it's time to come in, and you know that's going to set the child, 2 minutes before the bell goes off, say, hey, Stephen, by the way, the dinner bell's going to go off in about 2 minutes. Now, that didn't take very long, wasn't very hard. I was able to do it. He's now actually going to be listening for the bell because he's expecting it. Okay, it's not startling him. Okay? You want to provide frequent breaks and opportunities so that they can be active but with purpose. Okay? And again, and I said this earlier, I'm going to repeat it again. It doesn't help to get any scout exhausted and continue to expect them to perform. Just because someone with ADD and ADHD appears they're very energetic and they get all this, but if they are emotionally drained, if they're physically drained, they still have that drive that's going to keep them going, but it's going to be chaos on a stick, and you don't really want to be doing that. Okay. Wherever and whenever possible. And this is for any scout. It doesn't have to be someone on the spectrum or ADHD or anything else. Every scout that you ever work with, you got to remember, sometimes it's nice to come up and say, hey, Stephen, when you were taking those pictures of those birds, you really got some great shots. It doesn't cost me anything. It didn't take very long. But what it did do is it helped that scout to feel like, wow, the leader noticed. That's really cool. It helps build them. Okay? And every now and then, and it used to be we said boys would be boys, but trust me, girls, I've learned, are just the same. Youth are youth. They have energy, they have ideas, and they got mischief. If it doesn't cause any harm, if it doesn't create any chaos, sometimes it's okay to ignore the little infractions. It's when they start ramping up that you need to start paying some attention to these, okay? Look for the early warning signs. Are they starting to get fidgety? Are we starting a little push and pull, okay? Are we starting to show that we're losing our control on what's going on? Now, if you catch it early enough, you can maybe just bring it to their attention. Hey, Thomas, okay, I need you to do this. Or Stephen, I need you to go there, okay? Sometimes that will be enough to change the venue. Sometimes you actually have to remove them from the venue, okay? Sometimes you can do a private nonverbal signal, okay? The cubs that I worked with, they all knew if I threw them a look, oh, that stopped them dead in their tracks because they understood, okay, I don't know what I did, but whatever it is, Miss Ellen's not happy, okay? And they would stop, and then whoever was nearest that child would be able to say, hey, by the way, don't push Susie, she doesn't like it, okay? And they would stop, okay? Sometimes you do need what we call proximity control, and that's where, and I did this very effectively with most of the children that had the biggest problems, is Stephen would be here and I would just come up to him like this. Didn't say a word, but my proximity to him, he knew whatever he was doing needed to stop. So when I did that, what triggered me to throw that look or maybe give a signal or stand next to someone was because I saw them becoming a little more impulsive during a game, or maybe they're starting to get a little bit aggressive. And let's be honest, in some of our scouting games or events or tasks, it has room for that, okay? So if all of this has now failed to work, I need to get the scout's attention, okay? If I need to really redirect them, what I need to do is I need to move them. I need to be private in a calm voice. Now, private, again, remember, to deep leadership, okay? Unless the only time that this would not work is if there is a safety risk involved. If it looks like somebody's going to slam somebody or do something that could hurt someone, that is the only time when you will raise your voice to get their attention and everybody around there to get their attention. So that if, let's say that Mr. Scott is closer than I am, he will have the opportunity to intervene because I've now brought to his attention. He's looking this way, whatever's happening is over here. And so by my raising his voice, Squirrel, stop, okay? He knows to turn around and look at Squirrel to see what Squirrel is doing, okay? So that's when you're going to do that. You don't really want to yell, but you want to get people's attention. Very important, guys. And whether this is special needs again or anybody, don't humiliate any scout at any point in front of a group, okay? Don't degrade them. Don't say or do anything that's going to put them down in the eyes of others. Number one, you've just killed years worth of confidence building that's been going on with you. But more importantly, they're not going to trust you again. Okay? And that's going to be very, trust given once is easy. To regain is almost impossible. Okay? And if you're correcting a behavior, try to do the sandwich technique. So, Stephen, you were doing really good with cleaning that latrine until you and Leo got into that bickering batch and you almost tipped the latrine over. Yeah, not such a good idea. But you guys did do a good job cleaning up. I might recommend not doing that again because I don't think either of you enjoyed cleaning that up. Okay? If it is not possible to intervene proactively and the behaviors that have gotten out of control, there are consequences. As I said earlier on in this video, when it comes to our children, we're not asking for special givings to our children. What we want everybody to understand is we're looking for leveling the playing field. And what that means is if they cross a border, if they incur an infraction of a rule, there are consequences, just like everybody gets. Now, the consequences, however, might be a little different than what you do with someone else. Remember, these guys have a lot of energy, Okay? They're enthusiastic and energetic, and their impulsivity is a problem. Let's use that to help ourselves. So maybe what we want to do is give them some quiet time. Now, a lot of us don't like electronics at camp or in units, but with some of these children, maybe that's what it takes to calm them down. So maybe what I'll do is I'll say, okay, Thomas, you had a rough minute here. You broke the rule. You cannot go swimming the rest of the meeting. So now what I'm going to have you to do is, why don't you come over with me here? And while I'm working on the computer, how about you take out your game thing and let's just have you play quietly for 15 minutes till you can calm down. Now, some people are going to say, oh, you're rewarding that child. No, I took him out of the swimming that he wanted to be involved in. Okay? So, and again, doing it in private. So what you're letting this child know is, what you did was not good. You lose that. Now I'm giving you a tool that we know will help you to calm down. But you noticed I said 15 minutes, and at the end of the 15 minutes, that game has to come back, okay? Or maybe he reads a book, or maybe she does a drawing, or whatever the child does, okay? So we're going to give them a little bit of timeout or cool-off time. You want to offer feedback and redirection in a way that is respectful. Children today, oftentimes we hear, oh, they're disrespectful of their elders. Well, let me flip this back on you guys. Are you respecting the scouts? My scouts always had to call the leaderships Miss Ellen, Mr. Chris, Miss Susie. It was never Susie, Chris, and Ellen. It just wasn't. But the respect that they showed us, we also then showed to them. If the two children were talking, we could go up to them and say, can I have a minute of your time? We didn't just butt in. That's disrespectful, okay? When scouts are treated with respect, they will then learn to give respect. Now let's talk to you about how it feels to deal with all these bouncing boys and girls, and they're going every which way except the way you want them to. First off, these challenges are not aimed at you. This is what they're dealing with internally. So keep your cool, and remember, they're not doing this to you. This is what's happening with them, okay? They want to be successful, but they're going to need the support that you can give. And taking this training is an excellent step towards that. And trust us, all of us have our minutes where we're like, you know what? I need a couple of minutes out. Mr. Paul, could you come over here? I gotta take a step out. I gotta get some time down. Okay? And that's okay. They need that positive feedback. Just as much as they need the instruction, they need to know what they've done really, really well. But they also need clear limits. These are children. Consistency is paramount. Borders, firm borders are paramount. Because if I let Susie get away with something, and then I don't let Joni get away with something, can you see where the problem's going to come? Okay. Some of the techniques that fire back, I've kind of gone over quite a bit of them here. It's on the slide. I'm just going to kind of scowl over a little bit of it. Again, no yelling. You're not their boss. And if you set it up that way, trust and believe that's exactly what you're going to hear. Oh, you're not my boss, okay? You want to work with them. Remember, the scouting experience is not about dominating someone. It's about reaching down and bringing them up and raising them up to be the leaders of tomorrow, okay? Watch your body language, okay? If I'm like this and I'm trying to tell you that I'm happy and that I really like what you're doing, is that what you're seeing? I don't think so. But if I'm like this, I look happy and excited and wow, look at the great time we're having. Watch your body language. No humiliation, no degrading, no embarrassing, and no sarcasm. Remember, some of these children, have you ever met someone who has dry humor and you're like, did they mean it or not? Well, think about these children. They got all this other stuff going on in their head, and then you're going to try dry humor or sarcasm. They don't always understand, so just don't go there. It doesn't belong there, okay? I already talked about not acting superior. And remember, the best teacher is a leader, not a manager. A manager tells you what to do. A leader says, hey, come on, watch me. Come do this with me. That's what scouting is. We're leaders. We're not managers, okay? We never bribe. We don't hold a grudge, okay? And you don't mimic a scout. That's so damaging to ego, I can't even begin to go there, okay? Don't make assumptions. If someone does something and you don't understand, stop and ask them why. Hey, Julie, I just saw you throw that plate of spaghetti on the floor. What's going on here? Well, why did you do that? Well, maybe she saw a bug and somebody was trying to eat it and she was trying to get rid of it. But you don't know if you don't ask, okay? Remember, scouting is well thought out, highly structured. It's a step-by-step program of skills for these youth to master. Remember, we're making the leaders of tomorrow, okay? It provides a venue for fun, friendship, adventure, and it offers positive recognition. We show the scouts how to do things. Then we have to recognize what they've done. And if they're struggling, then we just keep working with them, okay? We're going to develop social skills, leadership skills, and we're going to use a system called EDGE. Explanation, demonstration, guided practice, enabling scouts. Remember I said that hand-over-hand method cannot be overdone. If I'm having trouble tying a knot, and those of you who know me know I'm the biggest klutz in that, but I tell you what, how many leaders have come to me and taken my hands and said, Ellen, no, you put this rope this way, you tuck this one under, now you let go this one and grab that. That hand-over-hand method cannot be rated enough. And then you go from hand over hand to verbal, let them do it, and build and compliment them on this, okay? Again, they're energetic, enthusiastic, and bright. Help them use what they bring to you, their talents, their excitement to your advantage. And with just this little bit of preparation, you're going to really enjoy these scouts. Thank you again for joining us, and happy scouting!